Oh dear. Oh dear.
Oh God.
Oh buttons.
Hi everyone. If you want to get lit with us,
Oh.
that feels sad. That just feels like petty. The next book that we're gonna be reading is Demon Copperhead, woo woo, by Barbara Kingsolver. Dunate. It's a fucking day.
Don't know why that's the one that tripped you up, but all right.
I know, there's not even that many R's. So put that in your eyes or ears, however you want to do it. As always, support your local libraries and bookstores. This is obviously a very popular book, so get ready to probably have to wait a bit.
I was a little bit lucky. I mean, like, but
Were you?
my library had, to be fair, a bunch of copies, but did have some that were available like right off.
I'm on a 23-week wait.
A 23-week wait. Jesus. Well, I guess not. I never checked back to see if I actually got like on that wait list where I thought like right away, or if I got like pushed back a lot farther. No, it's in transit the location. I think I'm pretty good. If you like this podcast, tell someone else about it. Tell a friend, tell an enemy. We don't really care. We're not too picky about you people. Well, that's not true. If you want to do the technical things, liking, subscribing, reviewing, all super helpful for us. If you want to get in touch with us, littlelitpodcast@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with us on Twitter @pod_lit. We're there less now because it's a cesspool of Nazism and whatnot, but I'm also still on there at AWKLEMA. I'm under the same name over at Blue Sky, and we also do have a Blue Sky account at LitPod for the podcast. So, yeah, we appreciate y'all tuning in, and come find any other ways to hang out and help.
Yeah, and get ready to dive into a world of magic and cats and giants and a fuck ton of tattoos.
Yeah. Maybe if I guess I'll keep this up as well. All right, whatever. Fine.
Don't sound too excited.
I'm having a tough one today.
I'm too. I have my Christmas glass though. Look how cute this is.
All right.
It's Christmas time, bitches.
It is technically December. That is true.
It is technically December. Andy, I went fucking ham on Black Friday.
Oh no. What'd you do?
For like my first time really in ever.
Does this mean you went out and fought people?
No, I did not leave. I guess it was more of a cyber attack.
Cyber Friday.
Cyber Friday. I guess it's like Cyber Monday. But did I tell you that like I don't think I did. I like repainted the basement and made like I'm making a like workout studio down there type thing for myself. But like a cute one.
Like a Jane Fonda video?
No, like
Why was that my fucking
I don't
personal
know.
reference?
Why?
My mom had her exercise tapes when I was a kid. I do know why, but like, yeah, that was a little bit specific.
Yeah, it was very specific, and like so not specifically me.
Sorry.
No, not like Jane Fonda. More of like yoga studio, Pilates studio type. Anyway, I got a Pilates reformer.
Oh, okay.
Which I was originally like $1,700.
I was gonna say those things must be expensive, yeah.
And I got it on sale for $400.
Oh.
I was like, fuck yeah. Check. And then I got myself like a TV for down there on one of those movable TV stands.
Like the one where you'd have a substitute teacher wheel in from
yes,
when you're
exactly,
yeah.
but not like today's generation
Yes,
kind of
yes,
substitute
yes,
teacher wheeling
yes.
in. Anyway, spent like $1,000 on myself, which is fucking crazy. I never do that. That's insane.
You got a project.
Got a project and I got super excited about it. And so now I'm gonna be a Pilates. I mean, I've already been a Pilates girl, but I just wanted you to know because I know how deeply Pilates has impacted your life. And You're just such a Pilates boy.
I've just done so many testimonials about the power of Pilates and how it has applied to my world. Yeah, exactly.
This is lit. This is a podcast.
And no one else is getting presents.
And no one else is getting presents. And I just realized that I'm going to have to open up my book on my trusty little pad thing. Anyway, this is Lit. This is a podcast where we read books sober, we talk about them drunk, and now we're here, and now we're doing stuff. My name is Dani Winner.
I'm Andrew Klima.
Don't point at me.
I'm just making sure you said the damn line.
I'm saying the damn line. I'm just, I'm trying to backpedal because I didn't know who the author of this book was.
Oh, God. Wow. Okay.
I didn't know because I know who it was, but we were talking about, I had just written down another book that this reminds me of, not by this author.
So then it was kind of like chasing your thoughts out of your brain. Gotcha.
Yeah. We read The Blacktongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. Buehlman? Buehlman?
I get it.
And we've read him before, so we're kind of doing a little double dipping.
A little revisiting, I guess.
A little revisit.
No, did we read him in 2020, end of 2022, right? I believe it. I believe it wasn't last year. Well, I mean, this is 2024, so that's the second most recent year.
Yeah.
I can look it up to be sure, but
I don't know. I think maybe. I don't know why I said it like that. It's because I've had airport beers and now I'm having a G&T. So
yeah, we did read Between Two Fires it was the last book we read in 2022. And
that's right. And 2022 was a rough book year for us, and we wanted to end on like a please give us at least 3 books that we liked from this year
to make sure we made it into our list. And that one did. That was I believe both of our number ones that year.
Was it? Yeah, I think it was.
If it wasn't number one, it was top 2 for each of us for sure.
I think it was number 1 because I don't think we had. We should keep track of this, but we're not.
I can keep track of like I did keep track of like what else I read that year, but it's not obviously not the same as everything that we did for the podcast as well. But or what you would have done on your own as well as the podcast, I should say. But yes.
Yeah. Well, that was the time when I wasn't reading anything else on my own.
Well, I wasn't going to call you out like that, but all right.
Fair enough. I will though. Yeah. I'll call myself out. Anyway, we read that. Mm-hmm. Now we read this. Mm-hmm. Do you want to give a 2-sentence summary?
Oh boy.
Andy's 2-sentence summary. Sometimes they're 2-sentence, mostly they're not.
That pitch was very weird, the first half of that.
I know. It's because I sang at a wedding for like 2 days.
Yeah, all right. Well, there you go. All right. This is the story of a young thief named Kinch who is kind of has his life changed by a chance encounter with a warrior named Galva, and that sends him off on this quest across the I don't even want to say the known world, but at least the part of the continent that they are on, at least whatnot.
They go over some water though.
Well, yeah, but the water is just like the northern border of that continent, so it's not like they're not changing continents, not going to distant isles. Even they're making it from point A to point B, and they encounter a lot of weird stuff along the way, including some more important, like high level political type things, and that is a departure for this crowd, or at least the thief, I guess. But whatever.
Top.
Don't even try to.
We haven't even had 300 out yet. Yeah, that was a pretty bad one. I'm not gonna lie. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, all right, fine. 3
on shoot.
Yes, on shoot. Okay. On shoot. What we think the other person thought of the book. So, 3, 2, 1.
Loved
fine.
It. Was I right?
Wait, was I right?
Well, I always say it first.
No, you weren't. I liked it, but I have issues with it.
Okay.
And I'm curious if
I also thought it was fine.
Yes.
I thought it was fine. I thought, and I didn't know if this was purposeful, I thought it read a lot younger than Between Two Fires. And maybe not a lot
I don't know if
maybe
I
that's
agree.
not the right.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
think
know if that's the right term. It just. I don't mean younger as in like content was younger. I just well, kind of. I think like you could be a young adult or like on the edge of YA and read this.
you could, but I think it's most definitely not targeted that way as far as tone and content and everything like that. To be perfectly like, I
I
think
don't know
that's
why I
like
think it kind of is in a way.
I don't. Well, I don't.
They
Well,
seem
why?
younger
Huh?
because it feels like younger characters.
Just because they're younger characters does not mean it's automatically a book that
No,
for that
but
age group.
I
Though.
understand that. I'm not saying that that's the only reason why I think it's YA. I mean not
Yeah,
YA, but like the only reason
sure.
why I think it reads younger than Between Two Fires.
Well, yeah, I'll definitely give you like younger than that one because I mean, Between Two Fires was this gothic horror story of like literal hell on
that
earth. You know.
but that's kind of what I was not I wasn't expecting Hell on Earth in this one, but I was expecting I don't know. I think I might have just been expecting more.
I think this book was like pretty dark from as far as the general like setup of the story. I mean, the setup of the story is that like entire generations of humans were killed in a war in like an awful bloody war with goblins, and they like to the point where I think they were saying like 90% of certain like of 18 to 35 or whatever your demographics are like in this world were pretty much wiped out, and then of men, and then in the second war then it took a whole bunch of the women as well because they were the only ones left to fight.
I did love the naming conventions, like the Daughters War.
Yeah.
I love. I will. I don't want to say that I didn't like it. I'm not trying to
Yeah, I
say that
understand.
this read younger, so I didn't like it.
No,
But
yeah.
in my opinion, I think it read younger to me, and I just wasn't necessarily expecting that. And maybe it felt younger to me because I've just been reading a lot of those types of books
Sure.
that are young adult, which I know you hate that phrasing, but suck it up. And but I still liked it. Like I thought it was still good. I don't know.
We both as we just said it was like the favorite book that we had of the last year, or Between Two Fires was, and so coming into this I did have some level of expectation. I thought I was like, I am ready for this book to. I was trying not to like to blow up in my mind so much. I was like, this one is gonna knock my socks off and blow me away. It's gonna be the greatest thing I read this year or something like that. But I did. I think I was ready, very much ready to read a fantasy story with the author's style from the previous book that we read of his, and I think that does shine through. And I'll bring that up a little bit more later on. I'm sure you will too. But I think that I wasn't blown away. I was like pleasantly surprised and was reading. No, I guess not even surprised. I was pleased with it. I was reading along with it. I was enjoying it, but I wasn't like, wow, this is like an impressive reinvention of the genre or something like that.
Yeah, I think for me, it had the same sense of humor that Between Two Fires had. Like, Between Two Fires had like a lot of good one-liners in there, like to the point where I was like, why am I laughing out loud during this gothic horror?
Yeah, this
book?
plague-filled book. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I think that was that was one of the reasons why I loved that book so much too, is that it was able to toe the line between this awful hell on earth gothic like horror, but then also still have relatable characters that weren't just rot in despair the entire time, but still throughout, like, we're still trying to find some sort of sense of humor with people.
I think that was part of it right there too. The heart that was within in that book, because you did have like a brigand, a bad guy who was your anti-hero for most of the book pretty much, and I think that kind of character was able to deliver some dark humor in that setting in a way that I found distinctly different from like a young wisecracking thief in this one. Which is not to say that doesn't mean I didn't find anything he said funny or any of the humor funny, but it read very roguish to me, and I love roguish characters.
I was gonna say, hold on, you love a rogue.
Yeah, that's definitely not a bad thing. Obviously, it's just that if we're talking about a sense of humor, like where that I feel like Between Two Fires came a lot more unexpected, whereas this
Yeah.
was very much like kind of par for the course as far as what I would expect from you know a rogue, or you know
Yeah.
that sort of character in like
Yeah,
in
and
a fantasy story.
I think that's what it was trying to do too. Like I don't think it was trying to step away from what a low level thief
Yeah,
like what kind of they had to be in order to get by in the world. I think that might have been something too, which is why I wasn't. Again, I liked it, but it did feel like it has been done before.
mm-hmm.
Like I have read books with a low level thief that is funny that happened upon, and I'm not saying that like at this point there's not really any new stories, but like it kind of it felt like I was reading a story that I have read, but with like still a really awesome author who
Yeah.
did really good stuff,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it. I think that's what the main piece of this being, ooh fuck, I really like this, was having there be like I don't know, a little bit of like a turn on your head, which there was kind of, but not wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I think that there was. I think we both were probably looking for something more, and that might be unfair, but it is it was the expectation that was brought to us because we enjoyed the author's other work so much, and I think that you had like with Between Two Fires, you had so many different elements that were really working for it in ways that were new and different. Even if some elements of those stories are, of course, you know, as we're saying, you know, used before, hard to get away from that. But that had a, you know, this meaningful and believable redemption arc. It had a real connection with multiple characters, and I feel, and also just the setting was gorgeously horrifying. And this book does a lot for the world building, and we'll get into that too. It's just that I think that Between Two Fires connected with me in a way that this didn't, not because it did anything wrong, but because I am a sucker for biblical stories and like you know, the heaven and hell aspect and the demons coming to earth during the plague type thing. It all made sense to me, and it really worked in a way that I hadn't expected it, because I didn't know what to expect going into it.
And I think that was it for me too, is that with Between Two Fires, it was also not necessarily an original idea, in the sense that we had all been living through COVID at that time pretty fucking hard, and it was pretty obvious that this book was touching upon a different type of plague that had wiped out an entire civilization.
Yeah. Not that the author was writing that, to be clear, because the book came out before, but that's how we were kind of the lens in which we were looking at it through.
Yeah. But it had a different vibe to it. So even though we had experienced similar stories and yes, like lived experiences of like COVID and everything like that, but even similar stories like zombie kind of apocalypses or other kind of that kind of shit that had that fantastical aspect to it, there still was a way that it turned it on its head, like the biblical aspect of it, without it going too over the top, especially for like you and me, like being interested in the storylines of heaven and hell, but not being religious by any means.
But the iconography of that is it always plays. Like our friend Angela and I have talked about that plenty. That like that is Constantine. Like Constantine is a great movie, because it's just like, well, first of all, it's based on a great comic, but also it's you know, it has heaven versus hell. I'm a sucker for that kind of thing, and the mythology that goes along with it, and I think that Between Two Fires really tapped into that for us in a way that was again surprising, like feeding that into the Black Plague, and feeding that into the story arc, and feeding it into this like almost like monster of the week kind of style that it was, where like every chapter was this new like visual calamity that the author had come up with and put down the page in ways that were frankly horrifying, or at the very least visually like mesmerizing and memorable too. And again, not that he doesn't do anything like that here, because he's got some really cool shit in here. It's just that it didn't grab me the same way, and I think that's I mean, for me, I think it's a lot of expectation. I don't know if it's the same way that you were, but like I think that's
Probably.
why I'm kind of saying like that it was fine. Like this is probably like a B, maybe B minus, maybe B plus, depending on how you're feeling and how you're coming into
Whoa.
it. And I think that Between Two Fires for us was both pretty obviously like an A, maybe an A minus, depending if we were, how harsh we were being or whatever.
Yeah, I think you're the harsh one. I would give this book a B plus. Like I would recommend this book for other people to read.
And I guess that is one thing too that like I should be clear about here. Like I do think this was good. Like I enjoyed my time with this book. I just was waiting for something else, and that like we can like there's a love story here that didn't exist in the other book, and I think that is something that it should grab you to a degree. I think that again the horror of the history of this world was important, and that can really grab you as well. There's a lot of different aspects of it, but for whatever reason, none of them came together and really got me in a way the other book did. So
I agree. Let's just stop talking now.
Now it's over. Now it's done.
I will say though, we do this sometimes with books where we come across like we don't like them.
yeah.
I don't want that to be the case. So
yes.
I don't want to even start this next sentence with like, well, because I did like this whole book. Yeah. I did enjoy. Here we go. Whatever. I don't give a fuck. I don't. Whatever.
Let's the last thing we'll say, and then we'll try to actually address this as if we were liking it, because we did. that I think that a lot of this initial reaction is because of us comparing it to his past work and our expectations for what this was going to be, as opposed to like just kind of letting this one fly and getting right into it. And I think that if we hadn't read a Christopher Buehlman book before, I think that we both would have been like, oh, this is pretty fucking good. This was like this is a really solid, like, interesting fantasy thing. And I think we're coming across as less enthused only because we both like thought it was going to have the capacity to like really change the way we looked at this. I mean, maybe not even like genre wide or something like that. That seems like too unfair to him. But I think that we thought we were going to get something that is like defiantly unique. And I don't know if that's the case here. But
all right, forget everything that we just said for the last 20 minutes.
Go. We loved it.
Go. I really loved the cat.
Bully boy.
Bully boy. I feel like we don't get a lot of books with cats in them.
At least not like this, for this much, like this in it for this much, as well as this much like affection shown towards the cat too.
Yes, like he is a full cat daddy.
Yes.
I really loved that. I did love that Kinch had a soft side. It was very difficult for him to kill, especially animals. Mm-hmm. And he had mentioned that was pretty much beat out of him when he was at the low school. I think that was called.
Yeah,
it was called the
Thieves Guild School, basically.
Yeah, Thieves. But he's like not a very good thief. Well, supposedly.
Well, he's a great like kind of like shithead thief. He's not a great like. He's not an immoral person or even an amoral person. Like he's got like he you can tell he has a sense of like, well, this is kind of fucked up, and like this like, I feel bad about some of this stuff. Like not all of it, but
but some of it. I loved the idea of luck.
Yeah.
And I thought that that was something that I had never really seen before in a magic system / world building type thing, because it wasn't necessarily magic. He was just imbued with luck, and he knew when luck wasn't looking upon him or when he had run out of luck.
I think that's the part.
And I loved that idea of being aware of your luck and him knowing like, ooh, okay, so I can I can go in and steal this big blah 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 because and then his luck kind of sparks at it a little bit too of like, let's go. I really thought that was awesome.
I did too. I thought it was almost like its own, like, if you're playing a video game, it's like your meter or something like that, and you can and your character has an innate sense of where that meter is. I guess because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's portrayed as more lucky than normal people necessarily, so much as he actually can figure out where he stands with luck and therefore has an idea of like, what can I pull off, or what should I not really, do.
I think luck shines on him more frequently though.
I think that okay. I think that's fair. I guess
Yeah.
I guess what I mean is like, it's not like he can get lucky and then like waltz through a crowd like it's bullet time and stab a king in the heart or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just it's not that kind of magic ability. It's more about like understanding where he sits with it, and also and maybe he comes up good more often than not, but like I think the most valuable aspect of it is that he actually understands where he is in terms of being unlucky or lucky, whereas you have no idea going into anything if you are not.
That
General you.
That seemed a bit pointed at me. I'm very lucky all the time.
I just hit myself on the eyebrow with a with a metal pole. So
Also, Andy is a pole dancer.
True. No one ever goes to my shows. I don't know why.
It's just like a random pole though. Like that, there's no real storefront.
That's me and random poles. That's
Andy and random poles.
I will say, like, I this is a dumb little thing, but we since you mentioned the cat, I love that he actually writes it out as like Rao, like RAO,
Yes,
instead of like meow or even like a hissing or something like that. There's something like, I feel like that Rao is a much more like honest interpretation of what a cat actually does,
got
which
Charlie's
is cool.
attention.
Yeah, nice.
He doesn't care about me anymore. But yeah, I like the way that that relationship depiction was, and just the magic system, or not even the magic system. Maybe it was more so of when we were learning about the different types of thieves and the different types of beings that existed. So a little bit more towards like the world building than a magic system per se, but kind of going into the morally gray thieves versus the not morally gray thieves, and and where he stood in the guild. I also just love a guild.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for a guild, especially like this kind of one where they're not just a guild, but are in fact like huge power brokers. Not not even you would assume a guild is an important figure, but this goes beyond all of that. In theory, this guild rivals kingdoms as opposed to just other mercantile classes or whatever.
Yeah. So I liked that. I did find like the character arcs interesting though. Not that I want to talk about things that I didn't like. But I don't feel like there were a ton of character arcs, if that makes sense. Like I don't think that Kinch had a huge character arc, and not that you need a big character arc in order to have a successful book, but I don't think that he was necessarily asked to sacrifice anything too majorly. I mean, besides having to kill the woman that he loved, but but like
kind of blows up your whole point right there. Just saying.
But I just mean, it wasn't like he learned anything on his. I don't know. Does that make sense? Am I being shitty?
No, I think I understand what you're saying, because like it's not like he undergoes this like. It's not like he's like an unrepentant shithead that then comes around to being like a halfway decent guy, or he's not even really like a halfway decent guy that then becomes like a hero or something like that.
Yeah,
he's still. He's more or less who he is through the whole story, so I get why that doesn't really read as like character arc-ish.
Which I like.
But
I like that.
At the same time, he does change in certain ways, and the obvious one, the biggest one, is his relationship with Norrigal, his moon wife, the person who.
I love that idea.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too. But like the idea that like he. There's at the beginning of the book, he is basically just concerned with staying one step ahead of the guild and doing what it takes to make sure that he doesn't get murdered or loses a limb or something like that, otherwise punished by the guild for not giving them enough money quick enough. But by the end, he's gone to open rebellion against his own guild. Like he has made that move into making a hardline choice of I'm not just going to do whatever it takes to, because he's thinking about how he can potentially betray Galva at a certain point. He's thinking about like what he can do, and he knows that that's kind of like what they're setting him up to do to a degree, and he doesn't like love it, but he's still like, all right, well, it's me or this bird lady. Like I got to do one. It's one or the other. It's going to be me. But then, like over the course of the story, he comes to respect her more, and has an actual like traveling companion. Maybe you can say friend as far as that goes, but like definitely someone who he's like connected more with. And then again, Norgal is the big one. Like that's the one that like he's actively choosing someone else's life over his own. And I think that's an important difference.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't know that he was having sex with like an 80 million year old.
well, no, he didn't.
With no legs.
No, he didn't know that. that part was different. But
that part was a little,
a
little off.
I guess more what I mean is that like he. Early in the story, his attitude would have been like, "Well, man, it sucks that these people are gonna fail on their mission because I'm gonna betray them, but like that's what has to happen." And at a certain point, it definitely became like, "Well, man, I guess I'm actually like willing to risk being murdered by my own guild to make sure that what these people want to do is actually gonna happen."
And I think that started with the cat.
I think that's
I think that started with Bully Boy because there was like the moment where he had told Bully Boy, who is also a vessel for another assassin
for Sesta, like a brutal assassin for the guild,
and also loved the clock tattoo.
Yeah, that was fucked up.
That was, the tattoos were really fucking cool, and I almost wish that there would have been a little bit more about like a little bit deeper in the tattoos, because I think that is such a fucking cool idea. It's not new. I've definitely read books that have that in it.
Oh yeah, there's a whole series called The Warded Man by Peter Brett that's about like, I mean, but it's not the same thing, and also that series is not that great in my opinion. But like, yeah, I think this is a lot more interesting, especially because like it's like legit. It's you can house living things on you. You can not just those particular like instructions and whatnot, but the idea that you have. I mean, all right. Spoilers, obviously, everyone. Sorry. I mean, I hope that would be very, very clear. But just so you know, spoilers. Yada. The fact that like horses can be taken from the tattoos, like you had the fighting bird, and that was cool enough on its own. But then, like part of the big payoff for the story is the idea that like you can actually bring horses back because they have been like stored in this form.
Really cool ending.
That part and that hints at something.
Everyone's
a lot bigger,
a horse girl.
There are a couple of very big horse girls there, but
that is the whole theme of this book.
Horse girls.
That everyone is in fact a horse girl.
Horse girls and cat boys.
Horse girls and cat boys. Horse girls is one of the hardest things that I've ever.
Horse girls.
If I'm gonna say it, just like say it, horse girls. It sounds like I'm saying house squirrels.
Yeah, it kind of does actually.
Horse squirrels.
I should also say, if anyone is unaware, which probably are, there is a prequel to this book that has been written. It's called The Daughter's War, actually. So yes.
Did I know this?
Well, see here.
Obviously
you don't even do basic googling of your of the authors that we read, apparently. So yeah.
No.
So yeah, he wrote this book in 2022. I think is when this one came out. Hold on, let me just double check right here. Blacktongue Thief was 2021. Daughter's War came out in 2024. It is a prequel. As far as
so it just came. Oh, not just. It's
well, I mean, during this past year, though, yeah. I don't think that there's plans to make this into like an ongoing series. Otherwise, I think that'd be the very next book he did. I think this would have been marketed as a trilogy or something like that. But this book does stand on its own. Like it ends at a point at which like you want more story, but the story that he's telling, this story itself is at least contained enough that you are not like, well, what the fuck? When's the next one coming out or something like that? I would like there to be more of these because I think they're cool, but and I will read The Daughter's War at some point as well. But
I think that this is an example of this is a very good self-contained fantasy.
Yeah,
I feel like there's not that many self-contained standalone fantasy books.
We've talked about Guy Gavriel Kay being the obvious one, but yes, otherwise I very much agree.
Yeah, I think that this is the type of book that would have an epic if it was a trilogy, would have an epic second story, like an epic second book.
Well, you know that absolutely everything is going to shit in book number 2. Like everything is going to shit. Like enough stuff goes to shit in this book. So I can only imagine what like the downer the middle story is before like the.
Well, it's definitely gonna be the downfall. Also, the murder alphabet. What a cool fucking idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea too. Well,
so like there are so many cool fucking ideas in this.
So let's do this in that case. I mean, we can always jump back around to other stuff, but like I think that this definitely shared the same like. Between Two Fires, weirdly enough, reads as like a monster of the week type of story in some cases. Like every chapter is like a new situation they get into, a new really fucked up demon or something that comes down to or is lying in wait in a city or something like that. There's something new each chapter that is like markedly different from the one before, and I feel like this story does a lot of that shit too.
That's what I'm okay. Yeah. This is the like fight equation.
Fight equation, okay.
Like, this is the not fighting. Oh, yes, fighting, but like I'm totally blanking on what the word is. This is like the equation for a fantasy combat.
Okay.
Like Christopher Buehlman has an equation, like as in like a monster of the week kind of a thing,
and like a random encounter type thing,
yeah, where you are going to meet a spooky, scary, or big and nasty,
or just some different idea, like you mentioned the murder alphabet, for example. Like
like you're going to come in contact with something that these people have not seen or haven't seen in person, or have to then like. It is a very calculated like equation for the way that he presents these types of like combat scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very fair, and I think that it's something that I think throws off the pacing of this book personally. Because I think that this book, I think he takes a fucking walk in a lot of chapters. You know what I mean? He does he really like. He decides to focus on his story, his world building, or he decides to focus on like a little side quest that the characters do along the way. And I feel like a lot of that ends up for me being distracting is the wrong word because it's always doing something, you know. At the very least, it's cool, and a lot of them also are building like characters to be, you know, like you're learning when they have the like the bull man who they're tracking down. They have a really like well scripted fight with him, for example, and that's when you kind of get a glimpse into Kinch and his disinterest, let's say, in killing. Like you that's an important part of that fight. You also get that like Galva is an incredibly strong warrior, but she's not like the greatest ever, and therefore can like single-handedly beat everything that's thrown in front of her. Like you get Norgal like kind of fucks up her magic a little bit because she's too young to really kind of be
know what's happening.
To be this amazing perfect spellcaster. Like so you get something out of all of them, but to a degree, I feel like. I mean, even like 50 to 60 pages before the ending, we were in side quest territory where he's playing fucking cards with that one like Prince of Thieves down in the sewers of the city, and it's like, man, like I like this and this is cool, but like I know this is a one book story and we're not close to done yet. Where's this going?
That's when I got to that moment and I was like, we were 60 pages out or something, and we were still there. I was like, what could possibly happen?
Yeah, that's where I was.
That is going to be a big enough payoff for me as a reader, having read not a short book.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't necessarily feel like I've wasted any.
No, not at all.
Time, but also, I kind of did. You know.
For me, I guess, and maybe this is true for you. So, and please stop me if I'm wrong. But like,
I will.
Yeah, I know you will. For me, it's like that. It wasn't that I was not liking the moments that we had or these different things. It's just that I was worried that we were then going to get shortchanged on the payoff of everything else. Yeah, and that's where I was at.
Yeah, and I don't think, and when I say waste of time, I don't mean that I felt I was wasting my time reading it. Yeah. I was still really enjoying it. I just meant more of like did I need this? Yeah. Did I need to like know everything that was happening in this specific card game in order to have the ending makes sense, because the whole point of that card game was for the Prince of Thieves to tell Kinch that a slight hint that the queen is a full witch.
Yeah.
Or that the queen, like, we've been keeping her down here. It's pretty hard to keep her down here, though. Like, wink,
yeah.
wink. So, like, but that could have happened within 4 pages.
Yeah.
And not this whole thing.
Especially because after they play the whole game of cards, and you're talking about how the various betting stages and everything like that, he wins the game of cards, and then he's like, "Hey,
betting.
double or nothing." He's like, "Well, got to do double or nothing. Otherwise, you're probably gonna kill me right now." And then he loses that one. So the game didn't matter.
Mean anything.
Yeah, like it was cool because it was world building, but it was also like, man, we are getting really close to the ending. Like, do we need this right now? Do we need to know this much about this card game in order for this all to process? Like, yeah.
That's how I kind of felt for like the amount of time that we spent on the boat. Like,
I was actually gonna say the same thing. Yeah.
I don't think we need to spend that much time on the boat. I think, I do think that the whaling scene and with the Kraken
was cool as hell, yeah.
was very fucking cool. But I think that could have happened, and then they would have ended up on the island very, very, very quickly. Yeah. And then we could have just done the whole goblin thing. I did really I think one of my favorite conversations in the book, though, is when they take the goblin ship and they go into port, and the head woman or whatever was like, so these are your options.
It explains the political realities of it.
Yeah, like, you can either say that goblins attacked you, we will have to go to trial, we will have to go to war, mm-hmm. or you can say that you found this boat, you boarded it because it had its green sails up, everyone was dead on board, and you brought this ship to us like good citizens. Yeah. And you can sleep in a fluffy bed for a week, and we'll give you a fuck ton of gold.
Yeah.
And I love that Kinch was like, yep, that one, we did that one, and everyone else was like, he's like, yep, no, that's
the one
with the gold. And then that was a reveal, though, because then we actually get to see, like, that, oh my god, I'm totally blanking, Galva, who was like, well, actually, I want the 10% because I'm royalty.
Yeah, which you didn't know before. Yep, exactly. Yeah. Even if you maybe thought that she had some kind of secret.
I kind of thought, but though, like, that was a worth it payoff. But we didn't have to be on the boat for
100 pages.
Weeks.
Yeah, whatever it was. I agree. I think that's kind of like every step of the way. I felt like the pacing was just slightly off. Like, I'm not saying like it was making it miserable for me. I'm not saying like it was ruining the book. It just felt like, all right, we spent a little too much time here, and then we, because I know it's a quest, right? It goes from A to B. You can't just go from A to B in 50 pages, or like, what's your story? But you do need everything to kind of like add something to the rest of the story. And so like getting on the boat, finding Malk there, who's an old enemy of Kinch's, from essentially his Irish upbringing. Let's be very honest about who the not the Holtz, but the
not the Spants, the Gelts.
Yeah, Galts. Galts or Galts. Yeah, either way. Like that's more or less who they are. They're very much Irish as far as that goes. And I think all that I think a lot of it is very, very cool. Like, of course, but it's just that it feels like in certain places, it just, like you're saying, the boat, it just goes on a little too long, and the quest to take down that man bear guy or man bull guy is like just again a little too long or a little too involved. Like, speaking of Guy Gavriel Kay, actually, he has this like two book series called the Sarantine Mosaic, and the first book, he's traveling from like his home to essentially Constantinople, and which I'm guessing is far. Yeah, and it's a big deal, and so like a lot, like that journey is like interesting because like there's a lot of things that have to be done for like character building and other stuff on that journey, but it also feels like, ooh, this is going on just a little bit too long. But as soon as he gets to the city, everything fucking comes together, and it like really is a tight plot. It is really like,
Yeah.
I feel like everything has some kind of layer and meaning to it. And whereas this book, like, it felt like we were doing a bunch of side quests that did add up to something, but I don't know if I would say that it really like coalesced like that.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I feel like when we get to books like this, we generally are like, oh, I wish that this would have happened. Or I wish that this person said this at this time, or this person. And I don't necessarily think I have any of those moments where I felt like some of these things shouldn't have happened. It's mostly that I just wish they didn't happen for as long.
That's
Because
yeah, I agree.
I loved all of the side quests. It kind of reminded me of the Bright Sword in that way,
Okay, yeah, sure.
of where you're kind of reading about the kings of side quests. And but this wasn't supposed to be a side quest type of book necessarily. This was supposed to be a main quest. It's very D&D. It basically feels like he wrote this book, or it feels like he was a dungeon master, and none of his characters did the things that he had
He wanted.
wanted them to do. So now he's having to take them on these side quests and still make them really fucking cool.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you have your characters going like, well, like, does the bull talk? You're like, no, kill the fucking bull. Like, well, what if I don't want to remove his head? No, okay, fine. Don't remove his head then. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it kind of was giving that a little bit, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I think that yeah, and it's this idea that like that he had all these ideas that he's like, oh, I gotta put these down then. And yeah, like, the thing is, like, he does those things very, very well because
super well.
What we were talking about a couple of things along the way, like this bull man creature. Okay, that introduces the idea that someone out there is able to Island of Dr. Moreau this shit. Okay, good to know. Interesting. They go up to that one city and they're looking for a ship for a while, and they have like some dealings with the locals there before they go out. Okay, that's cool too. How you describe this area, the world building is crazy good. Like I feel like he gets in what, less than 500 pages. Like I think 415 is the hardcover edition or something like that. He gets in so much world building, recent history, and by recent I mean like 50 years probably or something like that. The at least an idea of what a lot of the gods in this world do, some more than others, but like still it gets a lot of that across. Gets an actual interaction with the goblins into the story. Brings in another character along the way too. Goes, I mean, like everything has something that is really that's really interesting. It's just that like it felt a little like kind of slapped together as opposed to like really streamlined while introducing the stuff along the way.
Do you think you would have liked this more if it was a collection of short stories from this world that was building it, that maybe had a through line? It kind of reminds me of, and I'll fucking drink for it, Game of Thrones, how you actually don't have any chapters with Robb Stark.
Okay, sure.
But
so
but you know what he's doing through other people's chapters.
Sure.
So I wonder if this would have been a cool like short story, like a collection of short stories where you start realizing that the main story is actually woven throughout this, and you're getting dealings with these characters that are making their way along this line, but you're seeing it through a lens of these short stories and these like short dealings.
Yeah, I think that I don't know. I think I would feel differently.
Also TM, because I think that's a great idea.
I mean, I think I would feel differently about it for sure. Of course, it depends on how it's being done, but like, yeah, I like that idea because you could do all this
Well,
stuff.
it's being done well, Andy. 'Cause it's me and doing
Well, I more mean like, you know, like what part of it they're choosing to highlight. Because for me, I guess like this book, it tells a story of this one character in particular, although again there are a couple other ones that are important. It tells a story of you know an important relationship that he has as well, which matters a whole lot to the whole story. But I think it also it's giving you a lot. It's a quest that theoretically doesn't relate to this, but it's giving you a lot of information both about what happened in the past Goblin War, what's going on currently with the goblins and where they sit, like, you know, diplomatic wise, and a huge key for the future of theoretically defeating the goblins. Like even though the Goblin Wars were a generation or so, or 10, 15 years before, ended 10, 15 years before this story starts, like that is in the end the biggest thing that about this story, I would say, or the biggest large scale idea from the story.
Which one of these side quests do you think had the biggest payoff?
The biggest payoff?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if this is a side quest. I mean, I mentioned before, I loved the Moonwife
I love
scenes
that.
and the actual scene.
Also, she's so fucking epic.
Oh yeah, great character. Like
Great character. She just like, I'm gonna butcher the Norigal.
Norigal. I mean, I'm just
Norigal?
I don't know if I'm right either. But
What a great fucking character.
Yeah.
Just like, I love a female character that is a no bullshit, but also in a way that's not supposed to come off as. I feel like if you have a female character that's supposed to be no bullshit, they end up being mean, or they end up being like this like salty, everything sucks kind of character.
To drop a lousy word in here, like a cunt, basically.
Yes.
And like that's how. And let's be honest, it's usually a man writing it too. So it basically comes off as like, this person is so self-serious and they fucking suck.
Yeah, like to have a woman who isn't just like falling over something, or to have a woman who maybe is of a different moral well-being than whatever saint we're supposed to be, then they have to do a hard switch, and this woman has to be like shitty.
Yeah.
I love it when an author can accurately depict a woman who's like, no, I'll let you be my boyfriend for a month.
Well, she gives as good as she gets, right? Like she's basically like a match for Kinch and his sense of humor and his outlook on life and his like his actions, his attitude, his wit, whatever you want to say. She can take all that in stride and be like, all right, you're not that big of a fucking deal, buddy. Like I can also say some naughty words and be flippant about things too. Cool, but I also have a ton of magic power as well.
Yeah, and then I also did love the ending then where Kinch had to kill her, but with the knowledge that, or with the not with the knowledge, it's more of like a hope that what's going to happen to her will happen to the rabbit that he killed, or someone killed.
Next like generation of the switch between Deadlegs and Norgal and or whoever.
And so like he was like, okay, like I'm supposed to do this for this purpose, and then the witch Deadlegs emerges and has been Norgal like the whole time,
but like different version basically of like the Three Furies, essentially.
And so they get to like the very very end, and Kinch is like, where is she? Where can I find her? And Deadlegs is like, she's not gonna fucking be with you. Like, what you act like she's not gonna choose you. Like you're stupid. What are you talking about? And he's like, no, I'm gonna fight through hell and earth for her. And she's like, don't, like, you're not it. Which I also loved.
Well, I was also wondering if that whole concept had made any connection to Less for you, because we've talked about the whole 10-year thing for so long that like what's a Moonwife instead.
Oh, I also love the idea of Moonwife, of just like 30-day commitments.
Trial period.
Yeah, like a trial period where I almost wish, I mean, I'm married, so like my 30-day trial is over, but like
your real trial is just beginning.
My real trial is just starting. 380 days in.
Yeah, thereabouts now.
Yeah, 380 days in. It's going great. Not returning to sender. But
not chopping off someone's legs yet. All right, good.
No chopping off legs. But I do love this idea that you can have like 30 days of full commitment.
Yeah, it matters. It's not. It's not just like we're dating for a little bit. Like no,
it's like you are like basically my husband for these next 30 days, and after that, like whatever.
We'll see. Yeah.
I love that idea.
Yeah,
which I guess is just hardcore dating.
Well, I guess like the idea that it's like a cultural concept that they're both like they both understand and are very like willing to, because like they it's presented as if it is not like a not something you get into flippantly. You know, it is an actual like commitment. It is an actual honor to a degree. Like you do it with someone you care about, not someone that you're just fucking. And it's you know, and it matters. And I like that. And that, like this is one of the many like random cultural aspects that he throws in here. With some level of background that really like again fleshes out the story, fleshes out the world, like makes it a more real place. And I think that he does that so often during the story that it is very impressive. Again, it just slightly throws off the pacing enough for me, or at least like, you know, to get to certain places. And I do want to say, like, so you asked like what was a favorite one or what had the most payoff. Question back at you, and then I have my own.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Did you have one that you thought in particular was? Yeah.
I thought you had another question.
Well, I do, but now I realize that we didn't get to your version of this question too.
I had one that had a payoff. I think that I don't know if this was necessarily a side quest, but I did like the part of the island where they where Kinch and Norgal were supposed to like go off onto like the beach and make out or whatever, and he got caught in the cave with Sesta,
the assassin, and the cat.
And the cat. I loved the idea of the cat always showing up and no one really questioning it, or like kind of questioning it and then not. And then I just love like, I think that to me, I think the island had the biggest payoff for me.
I think that's fair.
Like the ending part of the island, then going into them being on the goblin boat, which I also think was just like a little too long, but I think that to me kind of had the biggest payoff as a side quest. But I also think that was one of the only side quests that really kind of propelled the story to where it needed to go.
Yeah, I think introducing that goblin ship was a very necessary part of the whole adventure, really. And that was a big deal.
Yeah, I think that was probably mine.
That's fair. And I guess the reverse question was there? It doesn't even necessarily have to be like one particular chapter, but like, was there any part of this book that like you could see what he was doing, but maybe it didn't like pay off all the way for you, or like you're not really sure why it was included, or something along those lines?
I think it would have been the card scene.
Yeah.
In the sewers underground.
Yeah.
I think that to me that was could have been extremely necessary and just became unnecessary really quickly.
Yeah.
I think that probably would have been mine. There were definitely necessary parts of it, but I think that overall, just like I just think that it could have been done in a different way that would have been more satisfying.
Yeah, I think that I think that even if you're like, well, okay, he has to do something to get this guy to tell him where the queen is, or how to track her down, or whatever, but it didn't have to go. It didn't have to happen like that. And also, even if there was going to be a game of cards, you didn't need that much explanation of how to play the card game. Like especially once again when
we already had it explained to us too.
Not as much in depth, but probably enough to just understand. Hey, this is a really complex card game.
I'm not going to play the card game.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have a deck. We're not going to do shit with it. But hey, this is a complex card game. He's really good at it. He gets a tough victory, and then the guy basically screws him over by saying that we have to do it again. Okay, cool. Yeah, got it. And I guess mine was that. I'm not 100% on this. I don't know if I liked Malk being used the way he was, because I obviously the story
the worst pronounced name.
Oh yeah, Malk. It's also
how do you say milk?
It's actually funny because there's a Simpsons episode where he's like, well, what the heck? My bones should be plenty strong. I'm always drinking Malk. It's because the cafeteria is so cheap and the school is so cheap they're giving them malk instead of milk.
Milk.
Yeah. But
Do you say milk though? Milk.
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 If I'm just
I say
saying the
milk.
word M-I-L-K.
I say M-E-L-K sometimes. Milk.
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 No, milk for me.
Milk for me.
Looks like milk's back on the menu.
Put my
boys.
order in.
Well, I guess like I liked a lot. I liked that. I liked that you had this like revenge story, right? And I liked, I liked that was the start of it, and I liked that there was a progression from that in terms of Malk and how he was relating to Galva, as far as like being like fighters and having some like level of understanding and camaraderie from that. I like that. We didn't go backwards into him like still hating on Kinch and it like kind of dragging down the rest of the storyline because like that's the only thing they know how to do together or whatever. And then I understand that like his death in large part is like supposed to be senseless. It's supposed to like show you the animosity between the goblins and the humans and how it still exists, and like even in like this theoretical place where in this place where they theoretically are living together peacefully. But like it also just kind of felt like a waste to have
I thought it was so Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was one of the, like, I would have not been surprised if that happened to, like, not like a main character. So I guess I could see where you're coming from. But that to me, it was like fucking senseless and also just like a wild depiction of how, again, world building, how this community lives. And I loved the little details that there were little girls taking money that was like fallen on the ground, because it's one of the biggest paydays that these types of towns see is if there is a big skirmish. I do think that I kind of wish it would have paid off a little bit more, maybe, but I didn't necessarily mind because I don't think I saw Malk getting to the end anyway.
Well, yeah, I didn't see him magically becoming like the fourth pillar of this story if we're using Norgal, Galva, and Kinch as the main characters. I didn't see him getting on like equal footing with them. I guess like, and I hope you can tell. Like, I'm still deciding if this is a problem for me. Like I because it. Well, you mentioned Game of Thrones and and how that happens. I was like, well, yeah, but there's like 800 characters in Game of Thrones, and like and like 10 different POV plot lines that all kind of work together for to tell an overall story. Like I feel like when if you're gonna kill someone, even in a way that makes sense, it's still it doesn't quite. It doesn't remove a fourth of your traveling party. I guess is my point.
I see.
Or a
I
fifth
still
with
kind
your
of,
best, but whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I still kind of liked it though, because then you have like the internal monologue that Kinch is having of, well, if I ever go home and I see his family, do I tell them that he got by goblins 7 years after he made it out of the war because I brought him to this town, or I'm just going to tell them that his boat sank? And so I think, yes, was it senseless? For sure.
It's supposed to be senseless, yeah.
But it's supposed to be senseless, and I think that I honestly, I don't know if I would have liked it if he was killed in a way that made him heroic, or that then had him turn his back on everyone in a meh way.
Yeah. What else were we going to do with this character?
Yeah, I kind of liked that it showed how harsh this world was. Yeah. Because we had been kind of living in a, like, let's go kill the Kraken. Let's go kill the Bullman. Let's go kill blah, 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 blah. And they had been. So I think this kind of showed that goblins were still a serious threat. Yeah. And also the visceral language that came about with him being taken by the goblins, and how was it Kinch who, well, I mean, obviously it was Kinch, it's all in his perspective, that was saying at least they treated him like they were enjoying him. Which is so fucking morbid, but he was like, at least he wasn't just like hacked on the side of the road and left there. Like, he was being enjoyed.
He was butchered and eaten.
Yeah, you're like,
Yeah, and I guess like I guess if I'm earlier, I'm saying that like the impact of goblins, both past, present, and future, is such a big part of this. Is a slightly hidden big part of this story. Then I can't really be too up in arms, for lack of a better term, like about how the scene where they showed how vicious like the rivalry and the hatred between goblins and humans still is, that like would, and they make it very pointedly with a character that we, even if you didn't like care and think, oh, he was like the best guy ever, at least you're getting used to him being part of the party and everything like that. So yeah, I mean I guess it is, I guess it probably is used the right way. I just like it didn't seem to me at first like there was a point exactly for, and again, I know that's a lot of the point, is there isn't so much of a point, but that was still part that gave me some pause, I guess.
I also do think it's very important for people to know that the cat does not die.
Yeah.
And in fact, the cat is kind of like the knight in shining armor at the end of this book on Kinch's like shoulders, with his face, he's blind, a blind cat, with his face in the sun and whiskers in the breeze, and Kinch was like, and he's smelling all the mice and the birds that he'll never catch because he's blind, and they're riding off into the sunset together. I did fucking love that.
Yeah, that was pretty great, especially because like it's possible that you could read the cat as being like a tool of the assassin, and therefore like either genuinely evil or like her familiar, and as soon as she gets killed, like the cat as well. I like that we got a good cat story. Yes, I agree.
I love that we got a good cat. And if you're not a fucking fan of cats,
don't read this book, you fucking monster.
And don't listen to this podcast.
Yeah, we don't want your business.
You're unwelcome.
Fucking hard lines.